welcome into the second of two streams that we do here every day on the Radio Misfits podcast platform. I am Pugs Moran. You can join me at noon every day, Central Standard Time, for Pugs & Company present High Noon. That is about topics. That's about trends. That's about current events, headlines, anything that's happening in your world or this world in general. Doesn't even have to be yours. I don't care what world you claim. But if it's happening, we'll talk about it there at noon. We give it to you in nice little bite-sized chunks. Here's how it works. We say, hey, here's the headline. Here's what it's about. Here's what I think. Moving on to the next. That's the first stream that we do, and that airs every Monday through Friday right here on the Radio Misfits podcast platform, hosted by me, yours truly, Pugs Moran. Then we come back. We double back. Oh, because, you can't keep us away from this thing. We come back and we do this thing every night at 9 o'clock, 9 p.m., also Central Standard Time, the only time zone that I personally recognize. We call this one Pugs & Parker proudly present Pillow Talk on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. He is, oh God, I almost made it through and then I had a little thing. He is James Parker. Be sure to check him out on Spotify. Florida Stories with James Parker on Spotify, burning up the charts. You'll love it. All kinds of crazy stories done with James's little specific spin. They're great. And what's happening on Sunday night? How can people, if they want to check you out on Sunday night, what do we do there?
Man, I don't know. There's like 18,000 ways you can do it. And that's sort of the good thing and the bad thing about modern technology is, it used to be like, hey, I can tell you, listen on 105.3 to catch me. But now you can listen on like 9 different social media platforms. He's on 100 stations to begin with. This guy I'm filling in with Becky with. And I mean, what the hell else are we going to be on? We're going to be on the iHeartRadio app. We're going to be on the Odyssey app. Yeah. We're going to be on the TuneIn app. I'm going to be digging through your trash after the show. You could probably just open your window and hear it. But follow me on social media. That's all you got to do.
Explain to Ed. Ed has a reasonable question. Why isn't your Florida Stories on the Radio Misfits platform?
Well, yeah, I mean, it can be. You want the RSS feed?
There you go. You can have it there. But no, I meant explain to him where it comes from. I mean, it's from a syndicated radio show. These are all segments that you've already done on what's his show called? I'm sorry, Sterling.
Well, Sterling on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ed might know who Walt Sabo is, but he got a radio show. He calls himself Walter Sterling, and he's the guy that, like, when I was working for Sirius, he was like my boss's boss's boss. Like, he hired the guy who hired my program director. So when I made his acquaintance at this radio conference that I'm going to tomorrow, actually, years ago, I was like, hey, why don't you give me some coaching? He's like, well, look, I could give you coaching and charge you. I could give you free coaching and be nice. But what I really need is content for my show. Why don't we work on a segment together, and I'll just kind of coach you through that, and that'll be the trade-off. And so, yeah, so then we worked. I threw him a bunch of stuff that I had done throughout the years, whether it's for Pugs or for the morning show in New Orleans or stuff I did at Sirius. And he picked Florida Stories. I had kind of focused when I was doing a morning show in Waco. I had kind of revamped the Floridiots idea that you and Kelly were doing.
Thank you for the credit.
Yeah, and so it was just Florida Stories.
That's all I want. That's all I want. I don't want money. I don't want a check. I want you to take it and run with it. I just want somebody to acknowledge that Kelly and I in the mid-90s originated the idea of doing on a regular basis stories about Florida mayhem, and now everybody does it. You've perfected it, but a lot of people do it.
Yeah, I don't have to be like financially successful or have a successful career. And I want in 30 years, someone on a Behind the Music go, he was way ahead of his time.
There you go. Yeah. That's it. There's something there. There's something to that, James. I know you're saying that with tongue planted firmly in cheek, but there is something there. On your deathbed, if you failed in every other area, at least people somewhere acknowledging that you did something. You didn't reap the benefits, but at least that you did something and left an impact. That means something with your final breaths.
Right. It's sort of the Jack Sparrow thing. Yeah, you may think I'm the dirtiest, rottenest scoundrel in the Caribbean, but you have heard of me. Right.
Yes, absolutely true. All right, James, don't get me started. We're almost late coming on the show today. And am I jacked up? I'm jacked up.
Well, get right into it because I don't have a monologue today. I do not have one.
Monologue? What the hell? No monologue.
I just had a really busy day and I hadn't been able to edit a script, and so.
Well, no, I don't know what this whole thing was. What if this whole thing was just going to seamlessly lead right into the monologue? Now we have no. That's all right. It's all right. It's all right, James. It's all right.
Well, I mentioned Jack Sparrow, so I imagine you're doing a Johnny Depp thing. Is that what this is?
No. I was almost late coming
Okay.
on the show again tonight. I'm not feeling great. I'm pushing a little bit hard. I got my what do you want to call it? My adrenaline pumping a little bit extra here. I typically go out for a run after the show at 10. Between 10 and like 11 o'clock, I'm out running around the neighborhood. I'm not gonna do that tonight. I just don't feel like I'm just like sapped of energy. So here's something that happened. So James, it has always been my dream. Growing up, well, I've got two dreams. Want to live in a hotel, okay? And not like the poor man version of living in a hotel, right? I want to live in
Rich
a
man,
hotel.
poor man, right?
I want to live at like the Four Seasons. I want to live there. I want to live at the Waldorf. I want to be like Eloise, right? Didn't Eloise live in the Plaza or something like that? That's what I want. That's one of my dreams. And one of my other dreams, a bit more attainable, one might think, is I always wanted to live within walking distance of a supermarket. I just always wanted to be able to just,
Oh,
I just,
walk home with just bags of groceries hanging off each one of your arms. I've done that, and it's everything you dreamed.
but not like a crazy distance, like a distance where it's fine to walk with a couple of bags. You can handle that. It's like walking back from the bus stop, right?
I lived in an apartment complex, and my apartment was right by the entryway there.
Mhm.
That was behind a Walmart supercenter, and it was the same thing as getting a raise. Because every time I need to stop and get a gallon of milk, if you stop and get it at the corner store, it's $5-6. You stop at Walmart, it's $3-4.
Yeah. Well, the closest I ever came was that I had a bodega like right there at the bottom of a place that I lived. And that was nice. But that wasn't a supermarket. Everything was super expensive. And all right. So it's always been my dream. And here I am. I find myself at this accelerated age. I've got a Whole Foods right at the end of my block. Always wanted a supermarket at the end of my block. And isn't it just God's next great joke in a long line of jokes on me that it would be a freaking Whole Foods, right? I thought the one that I don't want couldn't be a Kroger. I couldn't get a Kroger, couldn't get a Super Target, right? Within walking distance of my house. I got a Whole Foods. So I'm spending lately a lot of time at the Whole Foods because here's my metric here. Gas prices are crazy, and I'm doing a bit more exercise. So anytime that I can avoid getting in the car and driving somewhere and it's within walking distance, I'm doing that. So the little things that I'm buying on a day-to-day basis, fruits and vegetables and all that stuff, I'm going up to the Whole Foods, where apparently, according to you, I'm the neighborhood sex criminal because I'm like some kind of weird creeper, which isn't true, by the way, although I was just there, James. Yeah,
It's
man.
amazing, isn't it?
Doesn't matter
Amazing.
what time you go. Doesn't matter what time you go. There's always somebody getting out of a yoga class. There's always somebody leaving Pilates and going straight to the Whole Foods with their little ball cap and their hair in a ponytail and their yoga pants. And, this one today, the one that I saw today, though, and totally not creeping. Once again, she was just in the same aisle as me, and she asked me a question. She confronted me. You know what she asked me? She asked me if I could reach one of those Voss waters. The bottled water Voss, the ones
I
that
don't
come.
know that one.
Yeah, they're the douchiest brand of bottled water imaginable. They come in the fancy looking long bottle and it looks real expensive, and it is real expensive. It's like $8 because the bottle is like really fancy. And if you go to like clubs, like like dance clubs, they always serve the Voss waters because they can charge like $10 a bottle for water, and people walk around. Anyway, she goes, "Can you reach that?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure I can." And I reach up and I give it to her. Oh, unbelievable. This one wasn't coming back from Pilates. This one looked like she was coming back from work. Like maybe she was a lawyer or something, She was probably she's roughly a couple years younger than me. Probably it's Highland Park. They're not going to have a Kroger. They got a
So
Tom
probably
Ford.
like 52 or something.
I'm thinking maybe 45 or something like that, but just fantastic. Okay, so I didn't creep on her. But anyway, she helped. She asked me if I could reach up and grab that water for her, and I did. So here's the problem. As you may have known, the other day, if you were listening, you heard me talk about how surprisingly the produce section at Whole Foods is right in line with the produce section at Kroger. They're really, which is why I'm having no real issue going up there to getting a head of lettuce for $2.50 or a bag of mandarin oranges or a jalapeno pepper or a green pepper or whatever, which is what I'm doing with my salads. I'm having my salads every day. So I go up there and I need a head of lettuce. Here's what I needed: head of lettuce, jalapeno pepper, green pepper, mushrooms, and some kind of meat. Some kind of like deli meat, like maybe a couple, a little bit of turkey, so I could slice up some turkey and put it in the salad there and enjoy it. It's very good. So I got all the first couple of things. I got all the produce. Produce was great. Then I get to the then I spend a good 20 minutes walking around trying to find somewhere. Hey James, I was tripping over like lobster and like giant like tomahawk cuts of meat. I couldn't find deli meat anywhere. I just like budig, like that budig stuff that comes in the package. It's like 79 cents. Yeah, no, they ain't gonna have that shit. You know what they have? They've got a Whole Foods version of that for $7.50. Why? Because it's organic. It's $3.65 processed turkey, organic. It's processed. What is the organic process with, you know what I mean? How can it be at once organic for $7.50 and processed? I don't get that. So anyway, here's a problem I had. One of my great treats on this diet that I'm on, James, are mandarins. Do you like mandarins? Do you enjoy mandarin oranges?
Oh, I love oranges. Absolutely. One of my favorite.
No. These are not oranges. These are mandarin oranges. Do you know
Well,
the
is
difference?
there a difference? No, I don't. Is that
Yeah.
the ones that have like the Audi belly button? No, those are navel oranges, right?
Mandarin oranges are, I want to say that like in my early days when I was a kid, we just called them tangerines. They're like little halos and cuties would be the brand that dominate the Krogers.
Well, I definitely know what halos and cuties are. Okay.
There you go. Halos, those are mandarins. Halos and cuties are just like the brand name for what is a mandarin orange. So I love them. They're my big treat. They're the only like sugar that I get. And every night I eat 4 of them. And they peel them. I'm down to like being able to peel them all in one thing. Like I just
I love that. That's my goal too every time.
don't break the peel. Just have
I'm like a child.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's great. And sometimes they're small enough where you can literally stick the whole thing in your mouth and just like a hippopotamus eating a watermelon.
Mhm.
And it just like flows out of your mouth and you're like, it's like it makes you feel like real animalistic. So they got mandarins. They got mandarins at the Whole Food. And they're like 50, 75 cents more than the cuties and the halos. That's fine. Whatever. It's convenience. I'm just walking up there.
You can swing it.
I can swing it. So I get them and I bring them home and I eat one of these things. And dude, they suck. They are nowhere near as good as halos and cuties that you get at the other. These are some kind of organic mandarin, no pesticides used. And guess what? Apparently the pesticides make them juicier and way more sweeter because these things suck. They're dry. I'm like, oh my God, I paid 75. Why does everything gotta be organic? What is it? It's like, oh well, on your deathbed you'll know that you saved the Oregonian reef weasel from extinction. I don't care. I don't care. Give me all them pesticides. Give me whatever it's gonna do to keep the price a little bit lower. And quite frankly, if we're comparing halos and cuties to these organic mandarin oranges from Whole Foods, they just flat out make them taste better.
Well, the real tragedy here is if those organic mandarin oranges were paid for with the generous donations that come from when you donate to Venmo or PayPal on the Cash App.
Well
Because
done, James. Well done.
then you're not wasting your money. You're wasting the voluntary donations from the hardworking listeners of this show. And Whole Foods should feel guilty about that. That automatically puts them in the same category as Skeletor, basically. But what see, from the point of view of someone who comes from rural farmland America, organic means we're just going to use third world farming techniques, because first world farming techniques involve science, where you have industrial strength fertilizer and you have industrial herbicides and you have
Research
industrial
and development where
pesticides.
they figure out how to make it taste better.
Yeah, and I've got some sort of hybrid seed so crows don't pick half my crop up before I can harvest it.
Mhm.
And so what organic means is what are we going to do? We're going to smear what? Bat guano on it or something? No, give me the real stuff with the real herbicides and pesticides. And
You know what this
yeah,
does, James? This plays into your theory that nobody in the 1850s ever had anything delicious. because they really didn't know how. They did, they were just eating oranges that came off trees, and they were smearing, cow poop on it and
Well,
think,
if you were from Georgia, you had access to nice peaches. If you're from Honduras, you had access to nice
no, I
bananas.
bet half of them were rotten. I bet if you didn't eat them all on the first day, they rotted within a day off the vine because the
I,
pesticides keep them fresh.
right, but when 98% of the country is sustenance farming, they do get the benefit of fresh produce because they're
Okay.
making it for the most part.
What I'm saying is, I am for once agreeing with your stance that food tastes better now, and it has never tasted better. I bet you that
Mhm.
a lab grown Mandarin cutie in the year 2022 is 100 times sweeter and juicier and more delicious than one picked right off a tree back when Ponce de Leon landed on the coast of Florida. I promise you, tastes better.
Right, and the guy when you were driving home and you saw the homeless dude that was beating his meat under the bridge, he has had a better spread of food. He has eaten a better diet his entire life than Henry VIII, than the Pope did up until like 200 years ago.
That I'm not entirely sure.
He's eaten more food, more calories, better tasting, juicier, whatever, just the spices of the world. I mean, you think Henry VIII ever had like pad thai or some
No,
sort
but
of
I think he probably ate the best cuts of beef every day of his life for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I could live like that, and
you
then
wouldn't
die
you
out at 30.
look, the homeless spanker would not trade places with him when it comes to diet.
Oh, what? Really? The guy who is sucking Taco Bell sauces out of the dumpster behind the Taco Bell.
Would not trade places with
Really,
Henry VIII when it comes to diet.
Charlemagne. He's not trading food
Nope.
places with Charlemagne, who's got ducks and okay, all right, that's fine.
Well, I'd ask a homeless guy, would you rather have a bowl of macaroni and cheese with wieners cut into it or a pomegranate?
But Stephen, why are you making those the choices? So you're saying that the apex of modern cuisine is macaroni and cheese with wieners cut in it.
No,
The only
I'm
thing
saying
Charlemagne
just
ate was pomegranates.
no. The base of our cuisine is macaroni and cheese with
Okay.
wieners cut in it. The lowest of the low, something that's definitely attainable to the lowest rung of society, is better than we just had this come off the boat from Turkey or wherever. I don't know what the
I
hell,
disagree with you. I
Carthage or
disagree with
something.
you. I think Charlemagne and the like. I think those people back then. I think that the pharaohs of Egypt. I think they ate pretty well.
Oh, dude, you take a pharaoh, you take Cleopatra, the Ptolemaic emperor herself, to a golden corral, and she would she would renounce their kingdom.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
She'd be like, "We're messing around. We're just stacking bricks into pyramids. We're wasting our time."
So one other thing that pisses me off about the Whole Foods, and then I'll move on, and I'll let it. I'll move on. All right. So I come from the '80s, as I like to say. By the way, that's gonna be my T-shirt. I come from the '80s. I come from the '80s. So I remember the olden days of groceries and, in particular, grocery bags. I remember paper grocery bags. They were brown and you kept them under the sink the way we keep the plastic ones now. And then I remember when the socially conscious movement of the day forced grocery stores to move away from that because you're cutting down trees for paper. And it was all paper or plastic. For a good decade, it was paper or plastic, paper or plastic. And then paper completely went away and it was all plastic. Then they reversed course after another decade and they went, well, plastic is worse than paper. So now these bullshit places like Whole Foods only have paper bags. And I'm like, we killing trees? What happened to the '80s paper or plastic, where plastic was a better and more environmentally responsible option to paper bags because they killed trees? What happened to that? Why do they keep moving the goalpost on us? Why?
Bro, you are singing my song. These are things I complain about, and the conclusion is they don't really know. They don't know,
I don't
and
know.
so you can't go uh,
No.
by their concern. And maybe not using as many paper bags are the reason why the forestation has actually increased on the planet over the last couple of decades. Like the amount of forest coverage on planet Earth has actually gone up in the last couple decades. And maybe it's because we backed off on the grocery bags. I really doubt it. But who like I can't believe anyone has an opinion either way on either plastic or paper. Like, I go to the
Oh,
grocery
people did.
store.
They used you
Look,
used to get bag shamed.
yeah, well, as long as it's not made out of, like, the skin of an aborted fetus, I don't understand why anybody cares
Durable.
what
Very
your
durable.
bag is really durable. That's what I hear, the fetus bags.
Mhm.
But I don't care. Like, does it affect the price of my food either way? So I was happy with the paper bags. I was happy with the plastic bags. I'm happy if they go back to paper.
Mm.
And these people that get exercised over it, because I happened to see them quite a bit when I was in New Orleans. Uh, I can't believe you care. Like, I can't muster up enough give a shit to even really have a strong opinion on the plastic bag thing. My only strong opinion comes from people who do have a strong opinion on it.
Let me jump in here to the chat room for a minute. Jeff Ballard, more trees in America now than 100 years ago. Well, yeah, because 100 years ago was the Industrial Revolution when we were just chopping everything down. Let's go back 200 years ago. Why did you just randomly pick 100 years? 100 years was when we
It's
were
a nice round number.
but it's stupid. It's a dumb argument. No offense. I like you, Jeff. But it's a dumb argument that sounds like it means something. But 100 years ago, we were destroying everything without any care at all. Go back 200 years, Jeff, and then try and make that argument. Tell me if there are more trees in America now than there were 200 years ago, before the suburbs, before exurbia, before the cities, before all of that shit. Come on, man. It's a silly argument. However, I will say this. They also put up a sign there because Whole Food likes to encourage you to bring your own bag, right? It's like, be responsible, bring your own bag. If you don't have your own bag, we'll charge you $10 for this cool branded Whole Foods bag. I'm like, well, fuck you, your bag. I'll walk in there with a backpack. I don't care. I'll walk in there with a hockey bag looking like some kind of a store shooter, if you're going to be like this about it. But then they have the nerve, after charging like $7.50 for half a pound of turkey, which is, by the way, garbage turkey. I got home and opened it up and I'm like,
Was it organic?
Yeah, it's organic.
Organic turkey.
It's all dry and you can't pull it out of the package in one piece because it crumbles into like a million. I'm like, this is some bullshit.
This is why we shoot them full of hormones. Yeah.
Yes, so that their meat hangs together when we try and slice it. They have the nerve at Whole Foods, after charging me that much, to put a sign up that says, for your convenience, you can take a paper bag, but please, just one. I took two. I lined mine with two because I was just so upset. I'm so upset.
Did you make eye contact with the nearest employee while you were peeling that second bag just to establish dominance?
Just like
you see this extra bag? You see me doing this?
No, but I do mutter to myself while I, struggle with the self-checkout, because that is the other thing that I require in a grocery store now. Unlike E, who lives just across the yard, I require self-checkout. I don't want to deal with any people in the. First of all, what if my card gets rejected? I'd rather deal with a computer. I'd rather deal
right.
and slink away. I don't want to, I don't want to have the person go, oh, I'm sorry, it's not going through. And then I got to pretend like I used the wrong card. And then I got to put all my stuff down and go, oh, I got to run out to my car and get my other card and then peel out of the parking lot because I really don't have another card. That's just pretty much it. I'm not getting my food that day. I'm telling you, Adventures at the Whole Food. That should be my podcast. You doing your podcast. Ed, what do you say? Ed, Radio Misfits presents Pugs Adventures at Whole Foods.
I guess there's a delay, but Ed probably approves if you're willing to put in the work. It'd be a good weekend show. It'd be good, like a good Sunday afternoon show, when you're coming back from lunch.
All right, James, what do you got? You got anything you want to jump out with, or you want me to jump in with some nonsense?
Well, I don't have anything that's hard pressing. I have a bunch of fun, small, little chewy bits.
All right, well, why don't we save those for the end? Because I got something I want to jump in with. Now, I was going to jump in with I thought this would have been perfect for yesterday when we had Rebecca on with us. But then I remember a couple of weeks ago when we had Rebecca on and when we were kind of, being rather curious about the lifestyle choice. I did sense a little bit of pushback on, well, I don't want to talk about this all, you know what I mean? And I respect that. I get that. Okay. So she just wants to go. But do you remember when she did that, when she pushed back a little bit, where she was like, well, I hope this isn't all we're going to talk about. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, see, her concern isn't that she doesn't want to talk about it. She loves talking about it. She'll tell you all about it. Her concern is that she doesn't want to be talking about it, and no one in the room wants to hear it.
Well, but we were actually being, I think, sincerely curious. I think that we had an opportunity to speak to somebody who was living a lifestyle currently by their own choice that is certainly under the social microscope. And rare is it that you have the opportunity to just sit and talk with somebody and ask all of the questions that, in reasonable society, you wouldn't just ask a stranger. So, but by the way, I also completely understand why they wouldn't want that to define them just because it's their most. It'd be like somebody with a big giant nose not wanting to talk about their big giant nose all the time. You know what I mean? It might be something that's
Oh
obvious,
no,
but it doesn't define you.
it's like if you're a beautiful woman who happens to be a police officer, every call you go on, so it's like, oh, like you use handcuffs on me, her. That's
Yeah.
yeah. I don't want to be that guy either. I feel you.
Or as I always add, the nurse who's sexy who walks in, it's like sponge bath.
Sponge bath, Arthur. I'm gonna give a sponge bath.
So I want to talk to you about something. I was going to bring this up yesterday, but I tabled it. I was like, as we ended up just talking about lists. It was a very light show yesterday. So what's the deal with these drag shows and kids? Are you following this story?
Why didn't you bring this up? This would have been a great one for Rebecca. Come on.
But I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't, I felt like maybe she didn't want to go into all that. And we were having fun talking about other things. So apparently last weekend here in Dallas, it's Pride Month, right? So all of the people who are, what do you say?
Proud?
Advocates, allies. No, not only that, but, advocates, allies, people who want to show, it's like, I'm with this particular group of people. I mean, I'm not gay, but I'm with these people and but I'm not like, you know what I mean?
Sure do love gays. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I just love, it's like my black friends, it's like that whole thing where you're trying too hard to be what might be described as, in modern parlance, an ally or whatever. So there was this Pride event down here in Oak Lawn, which for those of you who are unfamiliar, Oak Lawn is the gayborhood, as was coined. I'm telling you, Sybil, like 20 years ago, was the first person I ever heard call a gay community within a larger urban setting a gayborhood. And now I hear it everywhere. So I am giving Sybil credit with coining Oak Lawn the gayborhood.
No, I think it was called the gayborhood long before me and Sybil came along. Because
Yeah?
I remember it was called
heard
the gayborhood when I was a kid.
Mhm.
Well, not when I was a kid, but when I was in college, I was working at this place with a gay guy, and he and his boyfriend used to go up to Dallas like at least once a month. I'm like, why are you always going to Dallas? Oh, they have a real great gayborhood. I'm like, gayborhood, that's funny. He's like, well, that's kind of what it's called, like Oak Lawn, Cedar Springs area.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm still going to give Sybil credit for it because she introduced the phrase to me, and I thought it was really clever. and now I hear it. I mean, I've heard people, when I moved back to Chicago, I've heard people talk about what was historically known as Boys Town. I've heard that called the gayborhood now, referred to that. I'm like, I thought that was a Sybil thing. Anyway, so here in the neighborhood, Oak Lawn, which is one neighborhood over from where we are here in Highland Park, I spend a lot of time in the neighborhood. As a matter of fact, Ed in the chat room, when he was talking about when he stays here in the west wing of the Rose House here in Highland Park, Ed comes and spends extended periods of time. He's got his own room and all that stuff. So when Ed comes and stays here, he does all of his shopping at what did he call it? Gay Kroger or Kroger Gay or whatever, because we've got two Krogers here that we can go to. He got it wrong, though, by the way. He confused them. We've got Medical District Kroger, which is Doc Kroger. I call that Doc Kroger because it's right next to Parkland and the big expansive Parkland medical thing. And so every time you go in there, it's people in scrubs. And then on, I believe it's Cedar Springs and Maple is another Kroger, and that's Gay Kroger. That's hardcore Gay Kroger. That's where you see.
Yes, that's right next to that gym where all the gay guys work out, and they are just ripped to the gills.
The intersection has a gigantic 365, 12 months a year. They got a giant rainbow in the intersection. So that is ground zero. Yeah, Ed prefers Doc Kroger. That's Doc Kroger over there by the medical center. He prefers Gay Kroger. And I also prefer Doc Kroger just because Doc Kroger is bigger. But Gay Kroger, you walk in, that's where you see guys straight from the gym, big giant handlebar mustaches and, like tank tops and, chain wallets, that kind of thing. It's a very fun, both Krogers are fun. One for scoping, oh, here we go. creeper guy again. One for scoping out like cute nurses and scrubs because they're always over there on lunch and stuff. And the other one is just fun because it's like, okay, I'm checking out this culture now. I'm seeing what the latest trends are in this particular population group. I like both. Oh, and also Gay Kroger is where I walked in once and saw a homeless guy masturbating right there.
Bugs.
I was like, what are you doing? What's that? What's going on there? All right, so I guess I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Oh, so yeah, right over there in the neighborhood is where they had some big event last weekend for Pride Month, and one of the businesses is a drag bar, a place where drag queens like RuPaul types and all that stuff. They put on a show. People go there, they have fun, they get drunk, straight, gay, whatever. Because, it's not just gay people who go to drag bars. This draws big from the suburbs. Let's just have a night out and be wild. Let's go see. It's like that crowd too.
Yeah.
So apparently they did something during the day, and it was called a family-friendly drag show. And, of course, a bunch of the Bible-thumping church weirdos here in North Texas, they got wind of it, so they decided to get a little social media mileage. So they went down there, and they filmed all this stuff that was going on. And, I've seen the videos. There was videos of, like, drag queens, like RuPaul types, dancing and, like, little kids dancing with them and all that kind of stuff. And now, because of those social media videos, now we got a guy here in Texas. What's his name? Brian somebody. By the way, apparently it's completely lost on him that we are less than 2 weeks away from when a bunch of fourth graders were slaughtered in their school. But this is the important thing that he's crafting a bill on. Following Dallas event, Texas lawmaker says he will file legislation to ban, where is it? There it is. Following Dallas event, Texas lawmaker says he will file legislation to ban minors from drag shows. A Texas state rep says he will file a bill at the next legislative session that will ban minors from drag shows following an event in Dallas over the weekend that drew both supporters and protesters. On Saturday, Dallas bar Mr. That's what it's called.
That's a great gay name, though, isn't it?
Actually,
because there's two S's in the second Mr.
Dude, the better name is Mr. Sister. That's the better name. It's a drag bar. Mr. Sister is a way better name than Mr. I think. I don't know, but they didn't consult me when they
that's a pretty good argument.
On Saturday, Dallas bar Mr. held an event called Drag the Kids to Pride. Oh, God. What are you doing?
Who are the ad wizards who came up with that? Yeah.
Same person who didn't see Mr. Sister as being better than Mr. for the band name or for the bar name. Drag shows in the city's Oak Lawn neighborhood. Organizers called it a family-friendly event where kids could dance with drag performers. Videos from the event sparked criticism throughout social media and even led to a protest at the bar on Saturday. The criticism surrounded the idea of children being involved with a drag show. While many criticized the event, one Texas lawmaker is going a step further by announcing he will be looking to file legislation in response to Saturday's event. State Rep Brian Slayton, who represents areas of Hunt, Rains, and Van Zant counties, and I promise you, none of those counties have drag bars, but he's very concerned about the people of his counties, said on Monday that he will file a bill during the next legislative session in 2023 that would ban minors from attending drag shows. Now, I know, James, I'm going to let you tell me what you think of this, but I already know what you're going to think of this because you are a libertarian who does not like governmental overreach, and you certainly don't like some small-time state rep stepping in and telling you where you can take your kid on a Saturday afternoon. So what do you think of this? I think this is one, I think this is absolute madness. Two, I wonder how many people does this really affect? I mean, are they pulling buses up in the suburbs, loading it up with kids and taking them to drag shows? This is the first time I've ever heard of anything like this happening. And
yeah, I'm always amused by these people who find something that's such a dire situation that it requires legislation right now, but they didn't know about it until last week.
It doesn't even affect his constituency.
So yeah, how can it be such a dire situation and so widespread that the government has to step in, but it's also so rare that you're just now finding out about it now? Like you didn't find out about it because your constituents were coming to you and being like, "Man, there's all these 5-year-olds going to drag shows. No, you saw something on the news.
It's not a thing, right? It's
Yeah,
not
it's
an
not.
epidemic. It's not happening from coast to coast where they're now doing, 2 o'clock in the morning in New York City at a drag bar. It's just filled with 10-year-olds.
Okay.
That's not a thing.
Okay, so let me go to the other side of the spectrum, the part that I do have a little concern about. If you're taking a 5-year-old to drag shows and there's actual obscenity there, like some guys just swinging his helicopter in his junk right in a 5-year-old's face.
Okay,
Oh
that's
yeah, oh
okay.
yeah, I'd be against that. But from what I saw, that didn't happen at this event.
No,
Some dudes wearing makeup, putting on wigs, just looking ugly as hell in a dress. It's horrific to some people,
what
but
you described does not happen at drag shows. Drag shows are essentially clown shows. They are no different than going to a bar that just has a bunch of clowns doing performances, okay? This is not a strip show. This is not a pornographic thing. These are legally licensed entertainment businesses where these people put on performances. They're not overtly sexual. As a matter of fact, have you seen drag queens? They're not sexy. Their whole thing is that they look ridiculous with the giant hair and the crazy sparklies and all that kind of stuff. This is not like taking a kid to the lodge or baby dolls. It is not. So I think there's a misconception over what these things are. Where I don't think there's any misconception is that this is a moral stand. This is somebody who just doesn't like the lifestyle that these people are participating in, and he's angry and he's looking for a way to sort of just sock it to him a little bit. But I know you and I agree. You don't get to tell me what I, as a parent, get to expose my child to. I mean, unless it's obviously over the top crazy, because then you better stop with all them friggin' pictures of 5-year-olds holding, AR-15s that are going around. Because I think that's far more dangerous to be exposing a kid to than letting him see some weird clown-like man in a dress.
yeah, and so this is sort of has some of the similar energy, but it's a completely separate issue than the people who are going to school board meetings because they're concerned about gender stuff being taught to their kids or critical race theory being taught to their kids. The way that this is sort of that same energy, but not the same problem, because the only way your kid's exposed to this is if you, the parent, takes them there. And if you want your kid to avoid this, it's really easy to not have your kid, inundated with a drag show. Just don't take them.
Pretty
That's
sure
it.
they card. I'm pretty sure that if you went to a drag show on a Friday night, there's a guy out front checking IDs. I don't think a 10-year-old would be able to get in. So it's not a legitimate concern.
Well,
Now,
I have look to just be totally um across the board here. I have seen drag shows where there was obscenities, and I have seen drag shows where nudity got involved, and that if kids were there, it would have been a problem. Most of the drag shows I've been to are not like that. From what I saw on the
what you're
news about
describing
this drag show, it wasn't like that at all. It
what
was
you're
more like
describing is an illegal business. They should be shut down for being an obscene business. If what you're describing now, you're talking about New Orleans, which might be a completely different
no,
scene.
no, no. You remember like when Eric had the episode where where they were chanting "pour beer" on it.
That was a gay bar, wasn't it? That wasn't a drag show, wasn't it? Wasn't that just a gay bar?
Well, it was a drag show at a gay bar, and then they also had a
Well,
Hermie there, and the Hermie had to show his malformed.
look, we can agree that we can agree that 10-year-olds shouldn't be allowed in gay bars on Saturday nights. Okay, we can.
Well,
Agree.
no, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if you want to take your 10-year-old to a gay bar and there's no obscenity happening and there's no Hermie that's flashing themselves and no
Okay,
one's pouring beer on someone else's junk, then
so this is interesting. So the exposure to the party lifestyle and the drugs and all that kind of stuff that goes on inevitably, the over drinking, the over serving, that is less concerning to you than your kid possibly seeing, a testicle pop out of a G string. I mean, I don't know. Kids should not be in bars. That's one thing. They shouldn't be exposed to that kind of adult oriented lifestyle. Those kinds of, but if you're a parent and you want to bring your kid to a bar at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon to watch a game, to sit at the bar, eat some cheese sticks and drink some kitty cocktails, that's fine, but that's different.
yeah, I don't think it should be happening, but I don't think there should be a prohibition on it, because what you do is you end up with some other unintended consequences. Like the issue you described. Maybe the alcoholic, instead of taking his kid to the bar with him, just leaves him at home unattended, and he hurts himself that way. Or maybe he
that's
leaves.
another crime. That's a totally different thing. We have
I
laws
know,
on that
right?
already.
Right, but I'm not inherently against a parent being able to take his kid to a bar.
Oh no, I'm not either. I'm not either.
Okay.
But I
Even
am.
if it's a gay bar. Now, if there's, of course, if they're
Doesn't matter what the sexual orientation of the population in the bar
right,
is.
if there's obscenities going on there, if there's nudity, straight or gay, yes, that's a problem. Sexualizing kids is a problem.
We already have that law too. You cannot go to a bar unless you're 21. That's that's a law. A bunch of 13-year-olds are not getting on a bus coming to to uptown and then going to bars. First of all, how could they afford the cover charges? I don't see how that would work. Second of all, adults don't want kids in bars. So this is not a thing that's going to be a problem. It's not going to suddenly start a
Right.
tidal wave of kids being in bars. Nobody wants to party and hit on people with a 10-year-old sitting next to, you know what I mean? This is not a real issue. This issue is completely drummed up to pander to a certain group of people who think a certain way. And it's not about the damage these kids are going through. It is 100% about hating people who dress in drag, hating that entire culture and looking for a way to throw a punch at them. I know, and I didn't mean to put words in your mouth, but I was fairly certain that you were going to agree with me that there's no need for this law. This is not, what are we doing? The government
Right.
cannot tell an adult during Pride Month what they can and cannot expose their children to on a Saturday afternoon. This is a Saturday afternoon. This was a festival. There was a big street festival that was going on. There were a whole bunch of kids. And honestly, if you understand what drag is, they are circus clowns. They are entertainers. They are no difference. It's not a sex show. They're not having sex on stage. Maybe you and I have been exposed to certain extreme circumstances where things got crazy, but that's not
this
the
wasn't
norm.
that. Yeah.
Yes, and that is not the norm. So now, having said that, I guess the next question for you, let's say that it's perfectly legal on a Saturday afternoon, which it is, perfectly legal on a Saturday afternoon to bring your kid down and show you're an ally and participate in some Pride Month festivity. Uh, would you? Would you bring? I've got a 13-year-old son. You've got a son that's roughly that same. Would you bring them to a drag show?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. I wouldn't bring them to the straight version of it either. Like a burlesque show where the girl doesn't get naked.
Yeah.
I like. I'm a big believer in that. You should wait as long as possible before you sexualize your child.
Okay.
And
That's hard to do though now with access to online things and you're
right.
your
It is.
friends.
No, I agree. But we talk about like the girls that use like the really high voice. They have a tendency to have been sexualized at a younger age. And whenever you flip that switch, you can't unflip that switch. And so
Sorry, I was trying to hit the cough button.
well, don't play sexy music when I'm talking about sexualizing children. Good God.
My bad.
But whenever you flip that switch, you can't unflip it. So whenever you turn that appetite on, then they will go seek it out
Okay.
more and more, and it'll start that ball rolling. But also that will become the equilibrium that the older version of this human being will come back to just innately for the rest of their life.
So would you allow your kid to see RuPaul's Drag Race in your house if that was on TV?
Man, yeah, that's not that big of a deal.
Right.
A TV show where dudes are in costume. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right.
In fact, what was that one that they were? There was something similar to that we were watching. Oh yeah. The kiddos were watching a drag race, but it was a TV show, and so it was wildly not sexualized. And then there was that one tranny that was in
drag shows are not sexualized. That is the norm. They're
well,
not.
some of them are.
In weird sex clubs.
Not on TV, but
no,
look,
not in real life. If you go to a drag club in a nice town, it is usually expensive. It is usually high end. The clientele in there isn't a bunch of alternative lifestyle people. It's tourists.
All right, so in Longview, Texas. In Longview, Texas, a town of 70,000 people that's just floating out there in Gregg County, middle of nowhere, actually kind of adjacent to this dude's district. There's a gay bar there called Decisions, and they have drag shows, and it's just local dudes who that's their thing, like that's their side hobby. And if you go there, because you have a friend there, or because straight people go there too, there's just not that many bars in Longview. and you go see a drag show, there will inevitably be one that like pulls up his dress and where his junk normally would be, there's like a shag carpet piece of brown or whatever that's supposed to be like a beaver of some sort, but it's hilarious. It's just a funny little joke. Now that's harmless and it's kind of crossing the sexual bounds to where, he has a fake female bush down there and really, there's junk under there. But see, that start kind of crossing the line. I wouldn't want my kid to see that. I would let them see what's going on TV where it's RuPaul's drag show where no one's lifted up their skirt and there's no hint about, oh, look at my genitals or any of that.
I agree. You're
right.
talking about a sex comedy. That's essentially the act that is being performed there with the drag race. When you show the big merkin that's underneath, that's replicating people.
Merkin, thank you.
That's a sex comedy. They're doing
right.
And that's inappropriate for a 13-year-old or a 10-year-old. Absolutely, 100%.
But that is what happens at normal old gay bars in the middle of nowhere, Texas.
But that is not what happens at professional drag shows. I've been to enough of them. There's
right. But I'm just saying, when you say the word drag show, you have to include not just the classy ones, but the pedestrian ones as well.
Yeah, I guess.
So silly law, though.
So here's my take on it. And this is how I explained it when we were first talking about this story on Monday. Me and my kid don't want to go to a drag. Me and my 13-year-old kid, we don't want to go to a drag show. However, if we were walking through the neighborhood during one of these festivals and the door was open and they were like, come on in, a drag show, there is, I don't know, maybe a 4 in 10 possibility that my kid and I would look at each other and go, oh, we got to see what's going on in there. And we would walk in as a goof and sit there and laugh and have fun. I don't understand why somebody in the legislature down there in Austin who represents a district in East Texas gets to say that I'm not allowed to have that moment with my kid where we decide to just have a goof, where we just decide to have some fun. It's like they are starting from the point of anyone that would bring their kid or expose their child to this must be trying to brainwash their child into not only accepting, but maybe embracing this lifestyle, which is absolute bullshit. And now you're micromanaging my parenting. I don't like that.
Well, just like my line is where they lift the skirt and they make the genital jokes, someone else's line on what's acceptable to kids is just a little further to the conservative right than where I am. So I don't think that most of the people that support this law or laws like it are coming from a place of malice, like we need to be able to control someone else's parental abilities as much as they think that they're protecting children from adults who want to introduce them to things that they think are not healthy for the kiddo. I just give them the benefit of the doubt. Like the people who wanted to do plastic bags instead of paper bags, and then they want to switch back to paper bags from plastic bags. Both times, their intention is good. They think they're saving the world, or they want to save the world, or maybe they are saving the world. Hell, I don't know. But I'm giving them good intent. They're not like bag Nazis. They're like, I am just out to control the rights of sentient adults on which bag that they can choose. Now, I that's not where they come from. They come from a more benevolent place.
Okay, well, are you talking about Brian Slayton, the guy who's authoring this bill? You're saying he's coming from a benevolent place?
No, he's a politician. He's doing what he thinks will be popular with the people who voted him in. I don't know what he thinks about this, but I know what he thinks his constituents thinks about this. That's all that tells me.
And that's exactly it.
He might be a tranny himself, behind closed doors. I don't know.
They often are. A lot of these people who are the most vocal about shouting down the way individuals choose to live their lives often are just closeted in that way. They're just look no further than Jerry Falwell. Look no further than we could. There's a list of people. There's a list of people who have been like this over the years. So, in closing, my thoughts on this is it's not a problem. It is not an issue that requires law. I've never heard of this happening before this weekend, as you so concisely pointed out. That it's the first time he's heard of it. Right? I mean, this is not something that's been brewing for months and months.
Yeah, he didn't renew that bill from 2 months ago.
Right. This is just new. He's taking advantage of the situation. They're not driving buses out to Plano and loading up school kids and taking them down to the neighborhood to see strip shows or drag shows
against their parents' permission. Right.
Right. Exactly. That is not happening. It's not happening nationwide. It is Pride Month. It was a whole thing. Again, I think the issue is that they do not like children of parents who are allies somehow passing those values on to their children. That's all it is. They just don't want this
Yeah.
next generation of children to also be okay with people doing drag. And, incidentally, I wanted to pull this up because I did some research on this. Where is it? Do you know that the vast majority of drag performers are not even homosexuals?
Wow, I see. Vast majority is
Vast
a tough
majority.
one because what does that mean? Does that mean 51% or does that mean 90%? Because
Well,
I would guess the vast majority of them are at least bi.
Well, I think it'd be more than 51% because that would just be a majority, a slim majority.
Slim, yeah.
Right. No. So this is something I just looked up this whole thing. So I went to the GLAD. Now, almost all of them, and again, now we're going to get into parsing some of these new terms that we've all had to grapple with over the last few decades. Almost all of them describe themselves as queer. But being queer doesn't mean that you are gay. It doesn't mean that you are homosexual. Queer is a whole that's why they had to add the Q to the lesbian, gay, bi, queer. It's like a whole, you know what I mean? It's all very complicated. I'm not 100% on it. But here, so I found this. I thought this was interesting. Although commonly intermixed as part of the LGBTQ communities, transgender people and drag queens or kings are not necessarily related. This is the thing that people think, right? The drag, they must be trans. No. Trans people, as is defined by GLAAD and the LGBTQ organizations, trans people are people who identify as a different gender than what is on their paperwork, right? They live their lives according to that. They go to the store, they're like that. Whereas drag kings and queens, as they're termed here in this piece by GLAAD, they're doing a goof. They know that they are doing a goof. They walk around in their regular life in normal person clothes fitting the gender of their birth. Have you ever seen RuPaul when she's not being RuPaul? RuPaul walks around, he wears suits. RuPaul dresses like a guy. By the way, incidentally, do you know that our friend Mitch Rosen was like RuPaul's agent at one point? It was like,
Wow.
how
Dang.
crazy is that? Well, he went to New York and he took over the disco station in New York. He was running a station in Chicago and they said, "Hey, who wants this New York station?" He was like, "I'll take it." And so they put him in charge of it and he went out and he got RuPaul as the morning person for this station. And yeah, he ended up having some sort of business situation with RuPaul. But he used to tell me all the time, he's like, "Dude, RuPaul is a normal guy. RuPaul is like, he's a gay man, but he doesn't, like, that's the difference between drag people and trans people. Trans people live their lives day in and day out as a gender that is in conflict with what they were born with, right? That is what trans is. A drag person or a transvestite, which is what they used to be called, is somebody who is what they were born as most of the time until they perform. And then they perform as something different. And I thought that was interesting because I had never really made any distinction between, it's all just, different to me, you know. The distinction is very important to the LGBTQ community and trans advocates because it helps show the performance of someone's trans identity. Being trans isn't a matter of dressing up in different clothes. It's a permanent identity that follows people throughout their entire lives. And while some trans people enjoy dressing up in exotic outfits to entertain others, the act of dressing up in clothes that match one's gender identity reflects only one part of what it means to be trans. It's all so complicated, man. It's all
No,
so.
no, it's not that complicated. Listen, let me go ahead and let me affirm. You're
Hold
special.
on, wait. Let me
You're
just.
not a boring, normal, hetero, straight person. I know.
You're
Your life
interesting.
has purpose now. You're right.
Similarly, being a cross dresser or drag queen or king doesn't mean that people identify with that gender. Some drag queens or kings may even be straight, and many are cisgender. What does cisgender mean?
That means you don't want to chop your junk off.
Okay. Meaning they identify with the gender assigned to them at birth. They are only dressing up for entertainment. What cross-dressing means can vary a lot from individual to individual. So, okay, so there you go. So the vast majority of drag queens are people like RuPaul who walk around in their normal life when they go shopping wearing blue jeans and t-shirts and, they look like a normal dude. A gay dude. He's a gay dude, but he doesn't go to the, he doesn't go to the Kroger or the Whole Foods in, dresses and stuff. He dresses like a dude. And then when he puts on his act, he turns into, and that's the difference. Now, I'm using RuPaul as an example because obviously that's the most high profile person of the drag world that we all know. But I might be misrepresenting. He might now just does RuPaul consider himself, well, his Wikipedia page, does he consider himself trans? Because if his Wikipedia page refers to him as he or him, then we know, right?
No, he's not a trans. No. He's a drag queen. I get it.
And there is a difference.
Right. If he dressed like that all the time, he would be a trans.
This would have been a good conversation to have with Rebecca. Because maybe, there would have been a little bit.
Oh man, you got to get to like some of these third, fourth level training conversations with when you have a trans friend.
Okay. I'm sorry. Let me just cut it. He is referred to on Wikipedia as a he. Andre Charles, known professionally as RuPaul, is an American drag queen, television judge, musician, and model, best known for producing, hosting, and judging the reality competition RuPaul's Drag Race. He has received several accolades. And the reason that's important on Wikipedia is because they're really strict about calling them they or that or what, you know what I mean? They use the proper pronouns because people are always editing it to make it. So RuPaul identifies as a he, just when he's actually, I guess Andre Charles identifies as a he, and when he is performing as RuPaul, that's a different thing. Look at this. There's a picture of RuPaul. Let me show this. Look at that's what RuPaul looks like when he's walking around. He's wearing a dude suit. I mean, he's just like a gay dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like a guy named Paul.
Looks like well, no, he
take
looks
out
like
the Ru.
He looks like a guy named RuPaul. I mean, let's be honest. He doesn't look like he's coming over to fix your air conditioning. He looks like
nice.
All right, that's it. So I'm glad we agree on that. This is not an issue. This is we both agree that drag performances are probably not the place for kids ever. But if it's during the day for a special event or something and they're doing it as family friendly, leave them alone. Well, let these parents do whatever they think is appropriate for their own little ecosystem that they're raising their kids in.
Yeah. Well, and for the people who are concerned about, the long-term cultural consequences, don't worry. There's not a whole lot of long-term cultural consequences to this. This is all sort of a biological dead end, this lifestyle, don't worry. It's not going to catch on. And
well, they make more. What are you talking about? They don't reproduce. Well, hey, drag people reproduce. There are married drag people. That's another thing that's in this GLAAD article.
Oh, there sure are some of them, but in generally speaking, that I would imagine, just logically speaking, societies that, I don't want to say perpetuate, but not even endorse, like glorify, mutilating your genitals, are probably less likely to reproduce at the same rate as societies who don't.
You're probably right on that one.
Was that diplomatic enough?
It's not that it was diplomatic, but it cuts straight to the point. No pun intended. I mean, look, I'm a heterosexual man. The very idea of having, even a surgery where they're going to, it's not anything that I want to think about.
See, that's what I'm talking about. When you have a chance to know Rebecca for a decade, you've already had all the cursory conversations that you're going to have. It gets to the point, it's like, do you think I'm crazy? Because if I got in a jet ski accident and my junk accidentally got cut off, I would be so upset I would kill myself. I wouldn't want to continue living. But he's actually she's actually considering that as a voluntary something that she's going to shell out tens of thousands of dollars for.
People are people.
I know, right?
As Depeche Mode sang,
takes all kinds.
Different strokes for different folks. I don't want anybody going near my junk with a sharp object ever. I'm very protective of the little guy, the twig and berries. I have no interest in. Oh, what'd you have? You had a couple little things you want to get into? I'm sorry.
Oh, screw it now.
All right, there you go. He's got a wife to go sex up.
I already did that. Oh, there was a guy. This was in Florida. Speaking of sharp objects by your junk, he was cheating on his wife, and the lady was giving him oral favors while he was driving down the road. And as he was getting to the end, he kind of lost control of his truck, head on hit a FedEx truck. And because his junk was in her mouth, when you get into a car crash,
Yeah, he got garped.
yeah, bit it off.
Did you get that reference? I said he got garped.
Nope.
Yeah, see, that's why the whole idea of excuse the vulgarity, the whole roadhead phenomenon, never been down for it. Never wanted it. Nope, don't like it. Don't. There was a movie, James, in the late '70s, early '90s. It was one of Robin Williams' first films. It was called The World According to Garp. And it's actually a very good movie if you ever get a chance to see it. And John Lithgow, strangely enough, plays a transvestite. Plays a trans character.
Okay.
It's Glenn Close, John Lithgow, and the star of it is Robin Williams. He plays Garp, and it's a very good movie. But there is a scene where Garp's wife is cheating on him with a dude in a car. Yeah, look at Jeff. Jeff knows World According to Garp. Where Garp's wife is cheating on him with a dude in a car, and she's doing that, and Garp slams his vehicle into the back of that vehicle, and she bites off the dude's junk. And let me tell you, at 10 years old, that scene stuck. That scene scared the hell out of me. So yeah, I think there's probably a lot of people in my generation, a lot of dudes who saw that during our formative years, who are not big advocates for the roadhead experience.
Well, that's just what came to mind when you're like, I don't let any sharp objects near that. I'm like, well, you let a couple. I can think of one.
It is a very trusting love act, is it not?
Yeah. Ooh, boy.
Which is why, and I don't want to, we could spend another 30 minutes on this thing that I'm going to introduce, but which is why I do not understand the glory hole. That is not something that I could ever participate in, right? I mean, so here's what you're telling me. So I'm going into a place that is already super seedy with a whole lot of really sketchy people who are complete strangers, and you're carving a hole in a wall, and I'm supposed to put my penis in it, and then some stranger in this sketchy environment is going to do things to it? No. I mean, that is got, where is the thrill? And first of all, dudes, I don't care what kind of videos you've seen, it's never a woman. It's never gonna be a woman.
Oh, no, right?
Never. It's not even supposed to be a woman. These things happen in like gay bathhouses and stuff like that. There's not even a pretense that it's a woman, except in the minds of heterosexual pervs surfing Pornhub at midnight. It's not a thing. But could you imagine being so brazen and so careless with your God's gifts that you would just shove them in a hole and go, whatever's on the other side, go for it?
All right. That just gave me a horrible idea for a business. It would be a bathhouse for straight guys. You think that'd do well?
Well, prostitution, James. I think those things already exist. You just want to introduce a wall. So you're going to, I don't know.
All right. Good points. All good points.
Yep. Right. Don't like anything sharp down there. That's a good
Except for teeth.
Hard and fast rule, which is a way that. Oh man! They say my son is yelling somewhere. That's what she said. Yeah, because that's our ongoing joke. And we know it's old, corny, and cheesy, but that's why we do it.
That's what she said.
Yeah, everything gets a "that's what she said" between me and my kid. Like, Sox lost today. That's what she said. It doesn't even have to make any sense. It's just, it's just our thing. All right, James, thank you so much. Once again, where can people find your podcast and tell us what it's all about?
Look up Florida Stories wherever you're already watching podcasts or listening to podcasts, or where podcasts happen. Florida Stories.
Follow them on Spotify, though.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeart. Everywhere.
And then the big show on Sunday, one more time?
That's Sterling on Sunday. So it's also going to be everywhere and all the apps as well.
All right. And what time? 9 o'clock?
For Central Time, 9 p.m. to midnight on Sunday night. The flagship affiliate is WPHT in Philadelphia. Okay. So if you have to go find a station, look for WPHT.
There you go. Yeah, we live in the online era. You can just do it there. All right. Thanks, James. There he goes.
That's Follow me on social media. It'll just pop up in your feed, though. I'm going to be putting it on this Restream stuff.
There you go.
Later.
Join me tomorrow for High Noon. We do it each and every day, Monday through Friday. High Noon, topics, trends, current events, headlines, all that kind of stuff. Please tip the show if you can. Again, this is the last week that we're going to be pushing because we didn't make it last month. So if you want to tip anything, throw me a tip on the Venmo or the Pugs Cast. We do 2 shows a day, the High Noon stream at noon every day, and then this one, Pillow Talk. Still haven't decided whether or not we're going to do a pillow talk tomorrow. I might be otherwise engaged, or no, I don't want to say it yet. Maybe I'll have an announcement tomorrow during the High Noon show regarding tomorrow night's pillow talk. All right, that's it. All right, love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow at noon for High Noon. Appreciate you stopping by. No problem, Jeff. The Boys is awesome. The Boys on Amazon Prime. I'm glad you like it. Oh, I envy you. You've got 3 whole seasons that you can watch.